Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Takuya Sasayama, and allow me to do my presentation in English. It's quite an honor for us to be invited in such a very well organized conference. But the theme given to me is rather difficult one for me to make a presentation in such a short period of time. The story I want to tell you today is about Japan-Korea economic relations after the normalization of diplomatic ties. As you all know, next year will be the 50th anniversary of Japan-Korea relations has been normalized. We are very much keen to celebrate next year as a commemorative year between the two countries, although, as we all know, that some political questions are hanging around, but we will trying to do our best to overcome these problems. So, I will give you the outline of my presentation today. To summarize the 50 years of economic relations is not an easy task for me. In what direction, in what aspect we should think about our relations. I thought my presentation is a very traditional approach I have been taking to think about trade, investment, people-to-people exchange, and official development aid, commonly known as ODA. I think these elements are important factors to how to describe the two countries' relations. I would like to touch upon very quickly on all these four aspects. And also, I would like to make some suggestions in what directions the two countries or regional economies should be looked after for. First, the trade volume. It is quite unbelievable. In 1965, only trade between Japan and Korea was only 220 million. Compared to just last year is 94.7 billion. Well, given the fact of the growth of both economies, this is not a surprising figure. But if you look back at the 50 years, you just a quick reminder of how developed our two nations, and also in the regional economy. Investment. Foreign direct investment to Korea from Japan on a report basis is 35 billion US dollars in accumulation in the past from 1965 to 2013. I will come back to this later on and describe what was the actual contents of this investment and in what directions our investment are going for. And excuse me. And people-to-people exchange. In 1985, the figure was very low, only 742,000 people went back and forth between Japan and Korea. Now, annually, there is also ups and downs, but annually we are recording more than 5 million people are visiting between our two nations. Korea to Japan, 2.5 million. Also, Japan to Korea is around 2.5 million. So altogether, it exceeds annually 5 million. And I think if you look back the history of our two nations, Japan's ODA, Official Development Aid, is one of the factors which constructed the nowadays economy between the two countries. So in all aspects, trade, investment, people-to-people exchange, and official aid are ever increasing upwards in the past half a century. In my presentation, I also analyze current status quo of these aspects, and at the same time, I would like to make some suggestions for the future directions of our two economies, and also the region and the world. Now I start from Japan's ODA to Korea. Well, the senior people remembers well about past activities, but younger generations, or even in town, you can hardly see now even the trace of Japanese government aid to Korea. But this is historical truth that some part of contribution was made from Japan to Korea after the normalizations of relations. If you look up at the history of our ODA, you can divide in two areas, 2 years. The first one is 10 years after the normalization, from 1965 to 75. And since 1975 to 1990, this was the second period of our relations. After the long discussion and negotiations, our Sonpei, our predecessors, managed to make agreement between the two countries in 1965, which confirmed the problems concerning property rights and interests, and these have been settled complete and finally. And also in this agreement, both countries decided that economic cooperations of amounting $500 million transferred from Japan to Korea. The content was grant aid 300 million, loans 200 million. And it was conducted in the coming 10 years from 1966 to 75. Now we can hardly believe that Gyeongbu Expressway, which connects Seoul and Busan, and such an important industry and well-used road between the two cities, the largest and the second largest, was made utilizing Japanese loan to Korea. By making this expressway, Korea economy or the entire nation became a one-day trip. You can conduct your business in one day. You don't have to stay overnight anymore, which could make the nations very small and effective. And also, now the worldwide, in one of the leading industries of Korea, of POSCO, then it was called Pohan Iron and Steel, which was becoming privatized in 2000, was formerly known as Pohang Island. And also, this was a very known fact that Japanese support was utilized in making this iron steel company in the creation. And also, in 10 years, Japanese aid was used through agricultural and forestry developments, which helped develop the foundations of Korea. These aids was used in a very strict manner. The parliament have a strict rule on how to use these aids and reported to the people afterwards. Now I turn to the second period of Japanese ODA to Korea. After the 10 years, from 1975 to 1990, this was excluding the amount which was supplied by the agreement in 1965. But these figures and project was made utilizing the Japanese support. Now everybody uses a subway in Seoul, but line number 1, which was the first subway in Seoul, was a product using Japanese loan. And also the Kumo Technical High School, which was the hometown of the then president, was supported by some grant aid. And also many dams and provision of the nation infrastructure was made in these period. Now these are all the histories. The current status of Korea is now becoming an aid donor country. Korea joined the established the EDCF in 1987, and also the KOICA was made in 1991. Korea also joined OECD DAC in 2010, so became a recipient-turned-donor countries. Now, Japan and Korea, hands in hand, together, to help our countries of common interest, like Africa, ASEAN countries, and even Latin American countries. Now I go to the FDI from Japan to Korea. The accumulations of Japan's FDI to Korea comes number 2 after United States. So accumulation means a very close tie between the two countries and two industries. I give you some concrete examples of the recent one. Toray established a new PPS factory, polyphenylene sanified factories, in Gunsan this year. This is a material factory which provides inside materials for automobile, electric goods, and also films and textiles, and also some accommodations. So these materials are omnipresent in our everyday life. Why they make these factories in Korea? It is located very close to the users in this country. The big companies are dependent on these materials. So if you come closer to the recipients, you can respond quickly, and you can be more become intimate in doing business. The materials are not only provided to Korean users, but also users in China and ASEAN and Asian countries. So Japan's FDI to Korea is not only a benefit for the Korean companies, but also to the region and, after all, to the world. why they combine these why they come to Korea for making business is they are also looking for not only the business inside, but also to the business worldwide. I think this is a very important aspect of the future of the two economies. Again, I would like to introduce some concrete examples of nowadays business trend between Korea and Japan. This year, they launched Mitsubishi and Korean Gas, and also involving some Indonesian companies, launched LNG project in Indonesia, in Sulawesi Island. It is called the All Asia Products. I think this is a good example and good combinations of technology of Korean gas and also making entire business running for the special knowledge of the Mitsubishi Corporation so that they can compile the strong point by minimizing the weak point of each other's industry. And from this, their products of LNG is in the future plan to go not only to Japan and Korea, but also a third country in the region. So this is, I think, is a very important and future direction, shows the future directions of corporations of two business and two economy, which will contribute not only to the region but also to the world. Lastly, I would like to come back once again about people-to-people exchange between Japan and Korea. As I mentioned, more than 5 million people are going back and forth between the two countries. And they are connecting not only Seoul and Tokyo, but flights, Korean cities are combined with, connected with 24 Japanese cities. So almost every day, more than one flight is connecting between Japan and Korea every day. It was just 2 weeks ago, approximately 50,000 people visited the 10th anniversary of Japan-Korea Exchange Festival, known as Omatsuri Festival in Seoul in COEX this year. So our future depends heavily on these young generations to know each other and get to become acquainted with each other's importance and actual status of what's happening in our countries. In conclusion, I'd like to summarize my presentation and also make some suggestions for the future. Japan and Korea have been important partners since or even before the normalization of the diplomatic ties in 1965, and I already give some figures to support this fact. Japan-Korea relations are not important not only for the two countries, but also to the region and the world. Well, this includes, of course, the political side as well. But as I give you some examples, business connection is also important not only to between the two countries, but also to the region and the global economy. Two countries' cooperations are not only the business side, but also the government is acting in a cooperative way, also in the field of ODAs or trade and investment. And we are supporting the business-to-business cooperation by the government. And finally, I would like to point out the future directions of our two economies. Our two countries are now facing common challenges such as declining birth rate, aging societies, as societies mature. It was just pointed out it is important to encourage female workforce to coming into our market, and we do have a common problem in Japan and Korea as well. It is, I think, very important to tackle these issues since we share the common issues, common agendas, common programs, and common directions. And so I think I just make a presentation what happened in the 50s years in the past, but also I would like to show some lights on the coming 50 years as well. Thank you very much.